Hello, everybody. Just a quick note on the end of the Mueller investigation, or Mueller investigation, which it was really an obstruction case. We were sold a bill of goods that it was about collusion with Russia, but he was called in by Ron Rosenstein to do this because of the firing of James Comey, which is in Trump as the President of the United States. Those are the powers that he is granted as President of the United States. Of course, Obama could fire everyone he wants. Remember when Trump first got into office and he fired a bunch of attorneys that worked under Obama, and that's what you do. And in fact, when Obama got into office, he fired far more people than Trump did. In fact, Trump should have fired them all, everybody who worked for Obama, and put in all new people. But there are a lot of people that are still in process. The Senate hasn't confirmed them yet, and so they're still in limbo. Our government is being run, essentially, by Obama holdovers, and that plays a big part into why the border agents are allowing so many people in seeking asylum. Because when they come in and they say they want asylum, as long as they're not from Mexico, if they're from Mexico, they get deported back. But if they're from countries beyond Mexico and they say, I'm seeking asylum, and they have a child, the border agent makes a call, and the person who makes a call to give them the okay is a holdover from the Obama administration. People don't realize that's how the politics on the border is working. But these people really need to be fired, all of them. And people who are loyal to Trump and why we need the border closed. Now, I wasn't going to get into that, but as you see, there are so many things that Obama was allowed to do that Trump can't do. These people serve at the Comey, serves at the pleasure of the president, and Hillary would have fired him on the first day. She blamed him twice while the campaign was still going on, that he was going to make her lose. She was all angry at him, and all her followers were angry at him. But then Trump fires him, and you know the rest of the story. But some interesting things that you might not know, other than fomenting hatred and division, more hatred and division in this country, that millions of people believed that Trump was not our duly elected president. He shouldn't be in office. He stole it. He just walked in. All the politicians hate him because he went from being Trump, the business owner, and Trump, the star of The Apprentice. I mean, a guy who can really build up businesses. Yes, he's had about 5 businesses, 5 or 6, go bankrupt. But 95%, most of them were successful. And I think if you go out and you spearhead that many businesses, projects, and most of them are successful in the world, the way the world usually works, you'd say, yes, you've got a few failures on your hand, but 95% are success. And you would be lauded for that, and he was lauded for it. And that's why there was 19 years of The Apprentice. He was on TV. Yeah, people looked up to him. Politicians asked him for money. He gave them the money, including Schumer and Pelosi and Hillary. But you have to do that, otherwise, like in the places you want to build buildings, you have, if you give them money, then see, they've got all these projects on their desk, right? All these things they have to okay. All these people want to have permits to have their buildings built or businesses, whatever. And if you give money to them in their campaign, they will take yours from the bottom to the top, and this is how the palms are greased. That's the way things work. So you wonder why he would give money to these people. But nevertheless, they took his money. They didn't call him racist. They begged for money. Even Romney did. And he wanted his blessing too, like Trump was the Pope. So he literally flew out to Las Vegas to meet Trump so Trump could come on stage and give him his blessing. And then all of a sudden they hate him because he just walked into this and he didn't hold any office before. He literally just ran for president and became president because for many years, these many years, everybody knows that politicians are liars and they'll say anything to get elected. Hollywood has always portrayed them as liars and they'll say anything to get elected. They never try to do anything. They go in and they do the opposite, just like all of them said they were going to close the border, including Obama. But, he went in and did the opposite of what he said he was going to do. And then he did some things that he said he was going to do. And it cost us an awful lot of money because he was basically using the stimulus package to give money back to his donors, because all his donors' green businesses went bankrupt. But he can do anything, but this is why they all hate him. And so this is why technically that case was an obstruction case. And an interesting thing to note, other than the fact that so many people, this hatred among Hillary voters, Obama voters, Bernie voters, hatred towards Trump is hatred towards the people who supported him. It made the country, all of those, half the country, hate the other half of the country for no reason whatsoever. All this violence, all this name-calling, all this deplatforming that's been going on, being ridiculed and beaten because you got a MAGA hat on. This lie, this collusion with Russia thing that they had to keep feeding. And it really isn't for the benefit of Hillary, it's for the benefit of the Democrat agenda, because they threw Hillary under the bus. She's no good to them anymore. And, she wasn't good to Bill anymore for a long, long time. But, so they're going to hook themselves onto somebody else. It's their mission. It's for total control, one-party rule. And we know that that's socialist. That's the main agenda. It's not a particular candidate. It's their agenda. That's why they want to destroy Trump. So, and they will, any candidate that will win over Trump, that's what they want. So this particular, technically it was obstruction of justice, they call it, when he was only doing his job. You see, the last FISA warrant, Mueller was appointed, and the last FISA warrant was granted in June of 2017. So about 4 months into the investigation, these FISA warrants last 90 days. They did not renew the FISA warrant after 90 days. And this is the interesting bit about it. By that time, Comey was gone, McCabe was gone, Baker was gone, Strzok was gone, Page was gone. The main people that caused all this problem in the FBI, literally trying to take Trump down with this fake dossier. That's their insurance policy. We found out that the dossier is fake. We always knew the dossier was fake. Well, those people were gone. And after that, at that point, 4 months into it, when he didn't renew the FISA warrants, granting him access to spy on Trump and his people, and the people spearheading this investigation were gone. At that point, Mueller knew that Trump was innocent. He knew for a fact there was no collusion. It should have ended in autumn of the year 2017, or at least by the end of 2017. Mueller kept this thing going because I'm sure the Democratic Party wanted to keep this thing going, to keep the hatred fomenting against Trump supporters. So what it is it's like the way the mafia works. If you support Trump, or if you work for Trump, you're going to be bullied and abused or taken out, literally. So it's really scaring everyone who supports Trump, either not to vote for Trump or never to work for Trump. And if Trump doesn't have anyone who will work for him because they're afraid for their lives and what they did to Judge Kavanaugh and that whole show, I've spoken about that enough, he was receiving hundreds of death threats. He and his family, his little girls, were receiving death threats. Was the job of being, really, you have to ask yourself, was the job of working for Trump or being appointed by Trump, being on the Supreme Court, is all of that worth it when you're bullied and abused and you receive death threats and your family could get killed? Is it really worth it? So this is one of those games that the mafia plays, and Hitler's brown shirts, Mussolini's black shirts, the Red Guard, Mao's Red Guard, the Red Army, Stalin's Red Army, and the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge. These are just famous groups in history that all these gangs today in the streets are terrorizing Trump supporters. They're using their tactics. So is it really worth it? But when all is said and done, when you get the Democrats in power and the socialism, that's what it is, it's going to be socialism, what's going to happen, even if we go along with it? A great many of us will get killed off, because that's the way it works. Even the people who wanted this, who are out there fighting, will get killed, as they always do. Those who start the revolution never end the revolution. And they will be prisoners, and it will not be a prosperous country. It will be a country of cement row houses. They'll no longer be living in America, and they don't really know it. But the people who will still be living in a prosperous America are all the people on top, all those Democrats, socialists on top who kept their power and live in gated, big walled communities. So the Southern District of New York right now, so he's evaded this particular thing, but they're going to keep looking and finding things. They're going to go through, they find nothing on him, they're going through his entire family, what's going to happen there? It's going to cause division in his family. And his family are the only people that he has for support, that he can really trust. So they'll leave him too. This is what they're trying to do, is to make everyone break away from him. And, they say there are I think there's 65,000 tax laws, IRS, that they say, because there's so many laws, even a tax attorney doesn't know all the laws. If you put everything in their hands and you're rest assured that everything is safe, they do not know all the laws. The IRS could get anyone at any time for breaking one of these laws just because we don't even know it's against the law. So I'm telling you, very easily they could get Trump on anything There's no way that there isn't one person that knows every single law. It can look over your entire business and say, this is wrong, this is against the law, or that is against the law. No, things that we do not even know are against the law. You can get someone on. They say every single person in this country could be thrown in jail for breaking one of these laws. And we are the only country that fears our government because of the IRS. The IRS works in a way that it's kind of like the mob. We are the only country that fears our government. Every year we try to do the right thing as far as the taxes go, and they can audit you for any reason whatsoever. In fact, someone I listen to all the time, Howie Carr, he gets audited every single year. He gets audited because he's a conservative. And so he basically gets the truth out and he will always support the truth. And whatever Howie Carr says he's a really good journalist, and he will only report the truth. And because he is killing the lies, basically destroying the lies of the left, they audit him every year. And the government, as I've stated before, is filled with Democrats because of the pensions and the high pay. And the Democrats always want to grow government, and conservatives want to make government smaller so it costs us less. So they don't want somebody that supports a conservative government. And this is how you take them out. You keep auditing them and making them pay exorbitant fees. So it is quite possible that Trump could be on anything that he never thought, and even his tax attorney never thought, was against the law. And I think, this is not going to end until just because the man ran against simply Hillary, because Hillary, the Democrat Party basically nullified Hillary in 2008. And they told her, we'll give you the nomination in 2016. He's going to win. We're going to keep him in for 8 years. You're going to be the next nominee. And of course, 8 years later, Hillary is completely broken and old and sick, very sickly. So she's screaming mad, and that's why one of the 65 people she blamed in her book, one of them was the entire Democrat Party. That's the reason, because she should have been the nominee, and she was winning. And Obama was not on the ballot in Florida or Michigan, and they got together with, what's her name, Donna Brazile, was at the table and watched the whole thing. They decided that it was right. And Donna Brazile said, Mama said, when it's right, you got to do what's right. She sat there and she said that. And they did what was right for them, because they wanted him to get the nomination, because the Democrat Party wanted the first African American, though he was not descendant of slaves and he was half white, to be. They wanted to claim that because they needed to get the minorities back, because the minorities weren't voting. The black people of this country were disillusioned, becoming disillusioned with the Democrat Party, as right they should. The party of KKK, Jim Crow South, slavery, slave owners, slave traders, all that stuff. So they told her to wait. They needed to get all the minorities back. And they sold them a bill of goods, basically. Notice 2004, Chuck Schumer, as Obama ascended the stairs to speak at the Democrat convention. The speech my mother spoke about for 4 years straight was so wonderful. He's so good. He talks so well. We need someone like that. Oh, he's amazing. Chuck Schumer said, "There goes the first African-American president of the United States." They had this whole thing in the bag. And as a junior senator, he used U.S. aid. Did a video on this. U.S. aid, which is supposed to be emergency money for foreign countries, to help in Kenya, the Muslim president. He was Muslim and he wanted to enact Sharia law, even though Kenya was not predominantly Muslim. And Obama, as a junior senator, gave him billions of dollars. I mean, money's still going there to win the election and implement Sharia law. Isn't that interesting? I think that's actually against the law, but they're never going to get Obama for that. And he also worked with George Soros and a number of other countries to change them to socialist and Islamic law as well. Sharia means law in Islam. It's say Islamic law or Sharia. So that's misused U.S. aid. That alone they could get him on. But there's two reasons that they could have brought impeachment, or the reason why we had a special investigation. If there's concrete evidence, two reasons, concrete evidence to bring this investigation, which there was none. There was no concrete evidence. And two, if it was a conflict of interest with the Justice Department, which you're going to have to wonder about, because Mueller at this time is working with that Justice Department. It would have to be number two, which means there's a conflict of interest. But he's working with the Justice Department, with Bill Barr, on what portions should be redacted from the Mueller investigation. He's working with them. So it's not Barr that's withholding anything, or Trump that's withholding anything. Mueller himself is saying this and this and that should be redacted to protect the government or some people in government, the certain names that should be protected. Never mind the fact that his entire team were Obama Hillary supporters. So you really have to trust this investigation. But nevertheless, the Democrats will question it. So all in all, millions of dollars was spent on this. Taxpayer money that could be used to help alleviate the sufferings of poor Americans in some way. And hate was fomented for years. 43% of the population believes that Trump colluded with Russia, when we know for a fact that Hillary colluded with Russia. Putin gave her $150 billion for 20%. Oh, it was $1 million. Yeah, billion. $150 million for 20% of uranium, which is a finite resource, which Putin is using to build bombs, to bomb us. And was it Bill, as a birthday present, $500,000, which is like 50 times his normal speaking fee. We know what Obama said to Medvedev. He said that tell Putin when my next term, I'll be free to do what he wants, basically. We know that there was collusion. And I said a while back, one of my older videos, that Ted Kennedy colluded with the KGB, who's head of the KGB, worked for Putin at that time, in the 80s, to prevent Reagan from being elected again. So he worked with not the new Russia, which is no longer the Soviet Union, it's no longer communist, and it's no longer a union of all those nations. He worked with the communist Soviet Union to get Reagan out of office. That was real collusion. We know it. Ted Kennedy did it. The Democrats did it. Yet, that's it. The Democrats don't like Putin anymore because he's no longer communist. And the Democrats just love communism. That has to be it. It's the only explanation. So, this is a party that's completely out of control. It's a pro-murder, pro-death party, pro-stealing from the American taxpayers to flood the border with people who are just going to live on the dole, get paid under the table, and are able to send, now it's north of $120 billion back home. There is no American in this country that can afford to do that. The American people can't afford to do that, send that much money back. But the Democrats will do this and let this happen because they want one-party rule. Unless you go out there, every single one of you goes out there and gets the truth out, shows people what sources. There's a lot of sources on the internet that are lies, that are complete fabrications. And there's the truth, and you have to know which sources are the right ones, are the ones that are telling you the truth. And it's kind of hard when you use certain search engines because they've manipulated the algorithms. So it's good to use other search engines like DuckDuckGo, Pale Moon, even though Firefox is part owner of Firefox's Soros. So you really have to know how to work the internet. And a lot of things I remember, and I keep typing it in because I've already heard it on the news, to find the article, to pop it up so I can read more about it. And it's really hard to get that to come up, and you have to really type in the right words. So there's a lot of work if you want America to stay America. And this is the one of the most heinous acts in American history that has ever been done politically. You want America to stay America, to stay free, to stay prosperous, and to not be socialist. Every single one of you has got to do like what I do, why I know so much information. You have to plow through that internet, really know how to work the internet, what search engines to use and not use, to listen to the right sources. Most of my information comes from the radio because you've got journalists on there and people with credentials that can remember things right off the top of their heads. They don't have to even have the computer in front of them because they've lived history. People who really know history because they're not teaching it in schools anymore. Like history of the Mexican-American War, it's completely the opposite of what people think of what Mexico was and what land was what. I've done a video on that. I'm not going to repeat it again, but you can scroll through and find that video. You really need to guide, look, you're not lying. This is the truth. You've got to wake people up and open up their eyes. There are people who are immovable and are just going to be violent, right? But there are movable people that you can talk to and reason with and say, this is the reason why I voted for Trump. No, he's not a bigot. He's not a racist. He's not any of these things. And show them the sources, show them the truth. Everyone has got to be a soldier in this revolution of sorts to fight for America and to bring it back, or to keep it America, to keep it. We were going forward with this whole thing of racism. It was, everybody looked down on people who were racist, this awful thing, right? We were going forward, where we thought, Obama's going to just bring the two sides together. There'll be no more racism. That's what America is moving forward, freedom, everything that works towards freedom and equality, the pursuit of happiness, and all our rights and freedom of speech. That's what America is. And we were moving closer and closer to a country that was no longer divided and no longer racist. We were going to that's the America that we're fighting for. Not that we're going to go back, but that we were going forward. Now we're going backwards. Now it's everybody against the white Christians. That's basically what it is now. So it's a revolution. It's a non-violent revolution. It's of thought. It's of free speech. It's a revolution of communication and getting the word out. And every single one of you has got to do that. It's got to get the word out, get the truth out, and be strong and know that you're fighting for a good cause. You're fighting for the freedom of everyone and the prosperity of everyone. That's what you're fighting for. Not going back to the days, which is the Democrat Party, is the party of the slave. So when they say, you want to go back to a white America, back to slavery. No, we don't want to go back to when the Democrat Party did all those horrible things. We don't want to do that. And the Democrat Party is the one who's saying that this is what you want. No, we don't want to go back to your party. In fact, we want to quash your party, wake people up, destroy your party altogether. Anyway, fight on, get the word out, be strong, so we can all be at peace and get along. Just like Rodney King said. Rodney King was beaten up by a bunch of cops in LA because he was speeding and he was on some kind of drug, something like that. And he said, the poor man said, can't we just all get along? Because riots broke out in LA. I remember Maxine Waters saying when they pulled a white man, Reginald Denny, out of his truck because he was white and beat him up, Maxine Waters took the side of the gang, African-American gang of men that pulverized him and beat up his face, and everything was just awful. She stood on their side. She's had a long history, and she's got 4 houses that are worth $4.1 million each. She's got a long history of being run, by the way. But Rodney King, the one who was the victim of this beating by the LA police, on camera goes, can't we just all get along? He's practically crying, he's confused, and you can see frustrated. He just wants black and white people to get along. Why can't we just all get along? Why couldn't he have been president of the United States? He was fighting for the right ideals, wasn't he? Unfortunately, the poor man died several years ago. He wasn't very old, but he did say the right thing. And that's what America should be. Okay, signing off now. Good night.